Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Within Range Coaching Podcast. I'm Ranger, a certified holistic success coach, and in this podcast, I break down the journey entrepreneurs face as they start their organizations, overcome roadblocks in their way, and create an impact that lasts. We talk with entrepreneurs, nonprofit leaders, and purpose-driven community members just like you. Together, we learn how to grow our impact and develop ourselves as the people behind the mission. My intention is to help more people. And remember, if you're curious about expanding your impact, growing a community, or defining your mission, vision, or values, we can chat off the record. You can find my info in the show notes or at my website, withinrangecoaching.com. We're also looking to build our sponsor community with organizations and individuals who align with our values of fearless innovation, social responsibility, and courageous candor. If you're interested in helping us highlight individuals doing great work in the world and share these values, reach out to me directly at ranger@withinrangecoaching.com. I know you're just as eager to get started as I am, so let's jump right in. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Within Range Coaching Podcast. I'm still on the Rangers Walk Across America series with this, where we're focusing on the nonprofits, the entrepreneurs, the change makers, community members that are making a difference in their home communities. And guys, I finally had the chance to catch up with someone that I actually met, almost a month ago? A few weeks, let's say like 3 weeks ago. I got to spend a couple days in Oxford, Mississippi. And I had the opportunity to spend some time and interact with an organization that, I don't know, they do one of my favorite things where they actually support other nonprofits with volunteers. So one of my favorite ways that people do that, what Wander Project does, where they empower individuals to raise money for themselves or for other organizations that they believe in. What this organization does is they find volunteers and kind of just divvy them out to other organizations that need them. And I mean, again, I get ahead of myself and I want to talk about it myself, but that's why we had today's guest. So today we're actually joined by Marlee Carpenter, the Executive Director at Stronger Together Oxford. Marlee, how's it going?
Going well. Thank you for having me today.
Perfect. I super appreciate you. I don't know. Right before we jumped on, she was telling me about how busy they are. And I'm sure, especially with spring wrapping up and a bunch of events, the weather's finally good enough to do things. I'm sure,
it's interesting because the students are gone. So Oxford's kind of dead, but this is when the community rises and shines. They are out and about right now.
Really? Why is that? Why is it just because now there's less students, so now we can do things, or okay?
Now they can go to their favorite restaurants without worrying about all the students waiting in line. It's just,
gotcha.
We're with the university all year long except for June and July, and then we have a little bit of downtime.
Gotcha. And how does that influx of students affect just the day-to-day life, I guess?
I think mostly the traffic, honestly, within the community.
Okay.
There's just so many students. So once the students are gone with their cars, we can get to one side of town to the other in like 5 minutes rather than 55 minutes.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I always forget how much that affects. I mean, because where I went to school, UC Davis, it was a similar vibe to Oxford. I think Davis might be smaller, but I definitely got that vibe when I was there for those couple days.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But we love our students. We love having them around.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, before we jump too far in today's conversation, can you just share a little bit about what your intention for today is?
Yeah. So today we just want your audience to know how easy it is to get involved with the community, whether it be indirect service or direct service, or just having that little random acts of kindness. Anything that anyone does is an impact in some sort of way.
Perfect. I love that. That's the theme that I try to carry throughout the podcast. So I'm glad that we're kind of aligned on, just how, like what is the word I'm trying to say? The simplicity of action, know? So
yeah, when I was a student at the university, there was a hub, there was a community volunteer hub, but I just wasn't aware of it. And as a student at the university, I knew I wanted to get involved with the community. I just didn't know where to start. And that's really what we do here, is just add that little extra enhancement of getting people to start and getting involved in their community.
Yeah, kind of like a catalyst almost, like there's that desire there. Let's take that spark and do something with it.
Yeah. We're just your little one-stop shop for all volunteerism.
How cool. Yeah, no, I'm excited. But yeah, so you already kind of mentioned that you as a student, but like, what was your background? What did you study? How did you get involved in Better Together? And I mean, to the point that you're the director now, like, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I really think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So as a young adult, I really thought I wanted to join the Peace Corps. That was always in my agenda for life. And then as, of course, I aged and I went to the University of Mississippi, I realized that that probably wasn't exactly realistic for me, but I did join College Corps, which is a sister program of the Peace Corps. And then when I graduated from the University of Mississippi, I started my part-time career at the Activity Center, which is also a city department. My background and my degree is in Parks and Recreation, so that was just right up my alley. And then I had the opportunity to merge to RSVP. RSVP was the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, and so I was promoted to serve as their volunteer coordinator. RSVP was a program in Oxford for 45 years until we decided to meet our community needs better. We needed to rebrand and be a community volunteer hub for the entire volunteer or the entire community rather than just volunteers 55 and older. So in 2022, we had the opportunity to rebrand. The city of Oxford fully supports this program, and it is such a unique opportunity for the city because of the personal touch that we add and the way that we connect volunteers to community needs and to nonprofits. So far, we have been very successful. We have over 300 active volunteers, and we partner with about 60 different nonprofits. And when I say we are very successful, we have about 20 to 40 applications that come in per week. Now, that sounds like a gigantic number. And so out of those, not everybody becomes active, but what we like to think is that this is the first step of them starting to volunteer. Like, they have shown some initiative to sign up, to gather more information, and that's just step one. So that's what we look for.
Gotcha. Okay, so to be clear, the RSVP, that transitioned into Stronger Together.
That's right, yes. So RSVP was just 55 and older. It was grant funded by AmeriCorps, so still full circle. From where I thought I wanted to be in the Peace Corps to where I'm at now. We're not associated with AmeriCorps anymore. We are just city funded, but it really, my entire life just came full circle from high school to right now.
Gotcha. Okay, so can we talk a little bit about that transition from going from grant funded to city funded?
Sure.
I feel like people, I don't know, I feel like an issue that I run into a lot with people with nonprofits is they don't know how to get funding. They don't know how that process works. So, like, what was that transition like for you guys?
It was a difficult transition. It was challenging, but the city had supported RSVP for 45 years. So there was no question that the mayor and the board of aldermen were on board. It was a question for our current volunteers and how that transition looked. So we were never concerned about funding this program. We knew that that was going to be fine. Now, we did lose some funding, but we're able to make it work. I mean, our mission is not to pass out T-shirts and spoons to everybody in town. Like, our mission is to recruit volunteers and connect them with community organizations. So it didn't matter that we lost that little bit of grant money, though it was nice, but the program's still able to strive without it.
Gotcha. And I guess just on my own curiosity, like, what does the funding go towards? Like, how does that support you guys?
The majority of our funding goes to our operating supplies. So that may look like Volunteer Week, which is where we met. And then also any of our internal initiatives. So last year we developed the Every Meal Project. This is an internal project. So we have volunteers, and really we like to focus on businesses for this, or any large group. And they will build full meals for families that we put inside of the little free pantries here in Lafayette County and the city of Oxford. So any of our internal initiatives, that's where our funding goes. And then anything that can promote the community, that's where it goes.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it makes sense definitely on the operations. I'm sure operating costs are super high for I mean, 300 active volunteers. And when you say active, and I'm not sure if this, I think I said it there. I wasn't sure if it resonated with you guys, but it really does sound like that temp agency of volunteers in the way that you have this pool of people. And it sounds like, and we'll get more into like the logistics of how you send people out, but you're able to kind of say, okay, like these people are interested in animal causes. These people are interested in the elderly and this and that, and kind of able to divvy them out that way, or, you know, the general workforce, right? So when you get these applications and you said not all of them turn into active volunteers, like what do they just kind of drop off, or is there like an actual application process that these individuals go through?
So we do have a full application process. It's your basic information. And then just like what you said, we like to categorize our volunteers. So anytime a volunteer comes in this office, we like to have them kind of brainstorm on what kind of volunteer opportunity they're looking for. So, and where their passion lies with what nonprofit. And then are they going to be more of a direct volunteer, meaning are they going to directly serve, for example, with the pantry? Are they going to be the ones that are packing these bags and delivering it to the cars? Or are they going to serve more indirectly and maybe collect the data from the pantry or host a fundraiser for the pantry? So we have different kinds of volunteers that look like that. And then we like to ask them, are you going to be a consistent routine volunteer, or are you more of a special events kind of volunteer? Because that too can be so many different things. We have volunteers that have committed for 30 years at the Baptist Memorial Hospital. And they go every Monday and Tuesday, and you better bet they're going to be there. That's what they love to do. And then we have volunteers who just want to do special events. So they might just sign up to go to the Park Commission's Easter egg hunt or help with their movies in the park or something like that, just more sporadic.
Hey listeners, we're taking a quick break to tell you about someone who's been an absolute game changer for me on my walk across America, Coach Marlee Fernandez. Coach Marlee is a nutrition coach with over 15 years of experience. In her personalized one-on-one nutrition sessions, she truly strives to understand your needs and goals to create a nutrition plan designed specifically for you. Her plans are tailored to fit your unique lifestyle, cooking abilities, and busy schedule, ensuring they are realistic and sustainable so you can create a healthier relationship with food rooted in balance and moderation. Personally, Coach Marlee created my meal plan for my walk across America and has been a tremendous help in making sure I'm fueled and feeling great during my 3,000-mile journey across our nation. If you're looking for expert nutrition advice and a plan that truly fits your life, I highly recommend reaching out to Coach Marlee for a few nutrition coaching sessions. Her contact link is located in the show notes below, so be sure to check her out and get started on your journey to a healthier, happier you. Now, let's get back to the show. How does it work in terms of like training? Like, what is that? I guess I'm like getting more to the logistics of it because I think that this is something that should be, I don't know, should, would, could, like, you know, whatever. Like it should be in more places, right? I'm not sure if I've ever heard of an organization that does what you guys do personally.
Such a unique program. We're so unique. I think in the state of Mississippi, I think there is one other active hub, and that is on the coast of Mississippi.
Wow.
So probably in the Biloxi area. So this is just, it's very unique. And Oxford is the best spot to have it because of all of the nonprofits that we have. But for a volunteers onboarding, once they complete the application process, we run some background checks, and then we approve them on being just a general volunteer through Stronger Together Oxford. We invite them to come over for an onboarding process. This is where we really decide on what kind of volunteer they're going to be. Direct, indirect, spontaneous, routine. And then we just connect. We have a casual conversation. My goal is to just get every little bit of passion out of them so that I can better place them in a spot where their skills and experiences are going to be used for the better for everyone, for the best of the ability for the community. So we don't want to just send someone who is interested in food insecurity, we don't want to send them to the Animal Resource Center because that's not going to do anybody any good. The volunteer's not going to be interested, and the Animal Resource Center is not going to benefit from the volunteer's responsibilities.
Gotcha. And when you say, like their responsibilities, like how long is it mostly just, because when I kind of think of volunteer, for the most part, it's, a day here, a day there. Are there like long-term placements? How does that kind of situation work?
Yeah, so we don't have any requirements for volunteers, so they can volunteer 1 hour a week or 1 hour a day, whatever is best for the volunteer and what's best for the community partner. But yes, we do have long-term volunteer opportunities. Some of our nonprofits require them to be at least a semester long. So, and we say semester because of our college students. So they know January to May, then they need to be consistent during that time. So the majority of our more long-term opportunities are going to be with our hospices, our veterans home, Leapfrog, Boys and Girls Club. So basically anything that has to do with a vulnerable population, with geriatrics or our youth, we like those volunteers to be consistent just so they have a familiar face and they're learning and growing with the nonprofit.
Gotcha. That's so interesting that it's more, I like the idea of the long-term aspect a lot more because like you said, you learn with them, you grow with them. And it sounds like, would there be opportunities for them to kind of move up or maybe move up isn't even the right term now that I say it.
Well, to piggyback off of that, we have had 2 volunteers who have actually gotten a job at their nonprofit that they volunteered at. And both of them were university students and they were both hired right after the semester.
Okay, so maybe moving up was the correct term.
Yeah, I think it depends on the age of the volunteer, or even if you have a young adult that's volunteering, I mean, there's still potential of getting a job at said nonprofit.
Yeah.
Or also gathering more responsibility rather than just coming and do an inventory at like the public library, rather than actually being there every single day and doing a census on everybody that's coming to the library. So there are different tiers and levels of responsibility for a volunteer.
Gotcha. Okay, so it sounds like in terms of the volunteers, it's, the background checks, skills, placing them where they need to go, where they want to go, where they have that drive, that passion. I guess on the nonprofit front, when you're kind of working with them and getting them on a list, how does that process work? Do people just kind of come to you and say, hey, we're a nonprofit, we need help? Or do you only work with nonprofits? How does that, from the other side, I guess, work? Thankfully,
when I started with RSVP, my mentor had already built these amazing relationships with these nonprofits. So I really didn't have to do a ton of work except for just maintaining these relationships. But to get the most accurate idea of what these nonprofits need, we have to spend time with them. We have to volunteer ourselves within their nonprofits. I cannot explain to a volunteer what the nonprofit needs if I do not know firsthand. So we spend time with them. We like to schedule dates that we're not busy in the office, that we can go down and give them our 100%. So that we, can then train volunteers on what to expect.
Yeah. So no, that's okay. I was going to ask you about that too. Like, how do you know? I've been on Indeed quite a bit in my time, right? Like these job application platforms where they're like, oh, you do this, 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 and this, and then you get to the job and it's, instead of ABC, it's 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah.
So like, how do you make sure that that in the long term it maintains that I guess integrity of what they're being asked to do?
So we follow up with the volunteers. We make sure that their experiences are what they expected. And then, of course, we follow up with our nonprofits. So something new that we are going to add for this fiscal year is a more community partner relationships position. So Micah, who you met, she will be focusing primarily on building that rapport and maintaining those relationships with the community partners. So she will be strictly with them, following up with them, making sure that the volunteer did what they were supposed to do and that they're doing it properly and with the quality of work that we expect them to do as well. And then I will focus on the volunteers and their experience with their responsibility and then their experience with the nonprofit.
Yeah, so it's very much like that checks and balances, making sure that the nonprofits are doing what they're saying that they're supposed to do. Yep. The volunteers are actually showing up and doing the work. Interesting. I think that's so cool. Okay.
Basically, we serve as the liaison between
Yeah.
the entire community.
Gotcha. Okay. So I feel like I have like a million questions. Okay. So from what you guys have seen, do you run any like audits on like what the like economic impact it has had on the community? Or just like the reach? Because nonprofits, it's kind of hard to talk about like the revenue generated. It's like how many people have been helped, how many animals have been saved.
So sometimes I'm pulling up my report that I just sent over. So I'm
Oh,
going to give you
perfect
some
timing then.
accurate numbers. So we don't have, of course, all the data that we need. Hopefully that will also change. We are switching softwares. So we're
Mm.
hoping to be able to capture everything a little bit better than what we are right now. Let's see. So for March, our community impact. So again, though we have over 300 volunteers, they're not all active. So
Mhm.
for the month of March, our volunteers served 2,259 hours. And since January, we have served 6,891 hours. And then we
Oh, wow.
successfully recruited and onboarded 20 volunteers. So that monetary value for service hours for the month of March was a little bit over 40,000. And then year to date is 163,932. And so we're able to make that calculation by what Points of Light considers to be the monetary value behind a service hour.
Okay, I was gonna ask you that. Like, did you
Yeah.
like take like the average or like the median wage
Yes.
rate
So
or okay.
Points of Light considers a volunteer hour valued at $31. So we take that information.
Wow.
Yeah. And so eventually what we hope to do, so I just gave you a broad overview of all of our community partners that we're active with right now, but we're hoping to be able to really divide that out per organization so that we can really see the value of what volunteers are doing per organization rather than just generally.
Gotcha. So I was just Googling Points of Light. I don't think I've heard of them before, so
They're pretty phenomenal. You need to look at that stuff.
how interesting. Yeah. I mean, I can just see you through the script. Like you're smiling, you're all excited when you're telling me the numbers and everything. So like what have you learned about yourself through this whole experience of the transition from, RSVP to Stronger Together and everything that you guys have been able to accomplish?
Well, it has really been so rewarding. RSVP was rewarding in general,
Hmm.
but now I'm telling you the difference between 55 and older and then serving the entire community has really just opened our eyes to what this program can be and will be in the future. We plan to grow it as far as we can.
Hmm.
But every day we just enjoy being with our community and connecting our volunteers with purposeful opportunities to make this impact. Every day is great over here. We love seeing the impact. We love talking to our volunteers. We love seeing what our community partners are doing.
Yeah, that's so cool. Hey everyone, just a quick message. You know that my mission with this podcast is to share stories of influence and impact so that we can help more people help more people. But to do that, I need your support. Please rate, review, and share this podcast. If I could ask for just one favor, it's to just leave a review. It takes about 10 seconds and a few clicks, but it means the world to me and could inspire someone else to make a difference. Thank you so much, and now back to the show. So I guess with all that being said, like what is like the major challenges that you guys kind of come across like on the day to day or, annually or what comes to mind when I say that?
Really, and this may sound so silly, but our current issue right now is just our software. Like everything else is roses and dandelions. Like our volunteers are so great. Our community partners are so great. We just need that better software so that we can accommodate everybody much better. And that is coming. We're going to launch that July the 1st.
Okay, so I feel like that is actually a great answer because it's something that people don't typically think about, or it's not, I don't know, it's like the underlining stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
like what's the issue exactly you're running into with your software?
Well, we're not able to capture our impact per nonprofit. And then we have a cap on how many volunteers can sign up with this software. So, of course,
Oh.
we could have upgraded the software, but I thought, let's just upgrade to a better software. So right now, the reason why I say 300 is because the max amount of volunteers on our current software is 300. And then we have a wait list of other volunteers that we're just waiting to onboard when we get this new software. With our new software, we will have unlimited amount of volunteers. And this will benefit us because the inactive volunteers that I mentioned, it will give them a second chance to really understand the program, because not everybody is ready to just immediately step in and serve. They need a little bit of time because we all have lives outside of what we're doing. You know, there are families, they have kids, they're working, they're going to school. And this will give them a little bit more of an opportunity to learn about the program and kind of get involved when they're ready, rather than just bopping in the office and, you know, I'm ready today. Not everybody is like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's so interesting. So I guess with the software, I guess is it an app where they like check in, like, oh, I'm arrived at the site, like kind of like clock in, clock out, tracking everything?
We will be able to do that with the new software. It's gonna have a GPS radius on it. So this is a new initiative that we're working on too. So we have built a partnership with our court systems. So we are going to help court-ordered volunteers with their community service hours. So rather than our court-ordered volunteers picking up trash on the side of the road, we're trying to build a better initiative for them to potentially change their lives and take them down a better route with more purposeful volunteer opportunities. And with the software, we'll be able to allow them to check in and check out, or clock in and clock out with the app, which is what we could not do before. We just have paper timesheets.
Gotcha. I didn't even think of the court-ordered kind of stuff. Is that something that you kind of run into often, or?
Well, so once we rebranded, we had a couple of court-ordered volunteers just call and inquire about the program. And eventually, it just was like a light bulb. And I was like, why are we not working closely with our court-ordered volunteers and with the court in general? So that was the first thing we talked about at the beginning of the year, was a better relationship with them, so that the court doesn't really have to explain volunteer service to every court-ordered volunteer, and that we can, again, hopefully encourage and inspire these people to change their paths and be inspired by the impact that they are giving to the community.
Yeah, because I'm sure once they see, that monetary value, or, I feel, okay, I'm a numbers, kind of sort of a numbers guy, right? So it's like you see the numbers, you see the hours, you're like, oh, wow, that's like, I've helped out this much. And then it'll also be able to, because when you say like the court ordered, right, you think of people on the side of the road picking up trash.
Right.
But, it's needed, but maybe if they were able to see, an impact that resonates with them more deeply than picking up trash, you can see the 10 trash bags at the end of the day and you're like, all right, cool, it's cleaner. Exactly. But maybe that would kind of help them, like you said, put them on a better path. Is that something that you've been able to see to fruition, that it helps them with that so far? Or?
Yeah, so we've actually had 3 court-ordered volunteers graduate from our program, which just means that they have successfully fulfilled all 200 service hours through us. And we were able to help guide and kind of lead them into the right direction. And we treated them like volunteers. We're able to just say, hey, you're a community member and this is what we're going to do today. And we try to give them more of a specific volunteer opportunity that does relate to them, like you were saying, just like we would any other volunteer. We try to match their experience, their interests with a nonprofit that matches to that.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. That's so cool. That I never even thought, like, that's one of those things you don't think about until the opportunity kind of just shows up at your door.
That's right. We would have never done it had the court ordered volunteers not called and inquired about it.
Yeah, and I'm sure, for them, they're like, what's the easiest way for me to get these hours done?
Sure. Yeah.
But
and then someone like me, I'm like, oh, we'll come to the office and we can talk about everything.
Yeah.
Which can always be very overwhelming, which is why we're trying to simplify the program a little bit more.
Gotcha. And I don't know, that brings me to this question, which is kind of a weird one, but is there an industry or an area that doesn't get as much love as others? Like that, because I feel like the puppies and kittens and, the elderly, like I feel like those might be the easiest to find people for. in my opinion, but maybe,
I'm really trying to think. That's a really good question. People ask it often, and I never have a good answer because we
yeah,
have we have Oxford is such a giving community in general.
yes.
For example, our pantry is sustained by the community. It is ran strictly by volunteers. There's no paid staff over there. And then the majority of the items that they have to give away are donated by the community, or it's monetary donations that they're able to buy from the food bank in Memphis and then bring back. But it's all sustained by the community. But as far as one that doesn't get as much love, I don't think I can answer that. It's so
Mhm.
equally across the table. Somebody matches with something different every time. So we're not constantly placing people at the Animal Resource Center or at Memory Makers. We share the love, we spread it all out to everybody.
I love that. Yeah, because that's what I
Yeah.
was kind of thinking. One of my dreams is kind of walk into a shelter and be like, which dog has been here the longest?
Right, exactly.
So that's kind of something that I would think is like, oh, well, who has the least help or the least volunteers? That's so interesting to hear that that's not even really a concern with you
Well,
guys.
okay, let me go back. So sometimes it's hard to recruit for hospice because
Mhm.
that can be emotionally draining
Yeah.
for a volunteer. But our hospice programs that we partner with now, we are able to promote it more as volunteering at the veterans home because you're going to be volunteering with the veterans rather than, hospice. And we try to remove that term as much as possible because people really just they shut down when they hear hospice. They think, oh, this is going
Yeah.
to be all things sad. And it's
Yeah.
not. We just placed two of our most phenomenal volunteers with our newest hospice partner. And she called me yesterday and said, hey, I know that you know that Patty and Gary are super, but I just wanted to let you know that they are really super. And we've been trying to get them into the veterans home consistently with a task for a long time. And we're
Mhm.
just now successful with that because of the hospice. So it's
Gotcha.
not that we are manipulating anything. It's just that we're advertising it as not sad. Is that like
Yeah.
we're trying to look at the other side of things where not everything is sad. I mean, you can't. We're going to develop a buddy program. So all of our volunteers will have a little bag of puzzles, word puzzles, coloring books, anything that you can think of that they could carry around to the veterans home or to these living assistants to just have a more engaged day with these clients and residents.
Yes. No, I hear you entirely. Actually, so, I mean, at the time of recording yesterday, we actually went to one of my nonprofit partners, the Hospice Promise Foundation here in Oklahoma area. And that was something that we talked about the director with was, people think of hospice, they think of on death's doorstep, like ready to go and, very sad and very this. She's like, well, our thing is prognosis of 6 months. So
Mhm.
like you're close, but you're not like, and that's just the estimate, right?
Right,
And I think that's so interesting that the way that you guys kind of approached that was because, for them, they're like, hospice is in the name, right?
right,
They're not going to rebrand their way out of that kind of,
right,
right? But they can,
right.
shine light, educate, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's so clever and interesting that you guys kind of went, okay, this term doesn't resonate with people.
Hmm.
What is the best way that we can get folks on board to help out in this area?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's about getting the volunteers in there, helping, supporting them through it, supporting the nonprofits. So I think that's very clever, problem solving and decision
Yeah.
making.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And now we're able to provide a little bit better quality of life for these residents and these
Yeah,
clients.
that's amazing. Awesome. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I feel like that gives us a pretty solid understanding, like what you guys do, how you bring folks in. And I think that nugget right there is like very, again, clever decision making on here's a problem that we have. It doesn't even sound like it got to like, mission critical, like nobody's helping,
Right.
nobody's doing anything, but still alleviating things as they come up. So I don't know. I feel like I'm just going to be thinking about that the rest of the day for some reason. There's
Yeah,
like
well, and I
the
think, Ranger, that was probably my fault because as much
yeah,
as I think I know about all nonprofits and I can tell you everybody's mission and what everybody's doing, I just could never explain a hospice better than what I just told you. Like,
yeah,
because I'm guilty of thinking, oh, they're going to die when I walk into the store. Like I'm
Yeah,
guilty of being so negative about it that I had to find another way for myself to understand what these volunteers would be doing. And that's again why we have to be with these nonprofits and we have to visit with them and we have to put ourselves in their shoes so that we can better understand the needs that they have and that I can explain that to the volunteers.
exactly. Yeah. And again, making sure that you can also, because that's another thing that we kind of talked about. What was it? Enrolling in the deep. It was a workshop that I did with a fellow coach that I know. And it was, you can know your mission, you can know your vision front and back, you can tell people all day. But if you don't truly believe it, if you aren't sold on it yourself, you're not going to be able to really truly get others enrolled in that vision as well. So it sounds like you kind of saw that, again, it wasn't mission critical, but enough of a lapse to say, okay, I need to go in here, I need to understand this better so that I can communicate that with others. And I think that's rad.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, my husband always teases me about he has a retail background and we always talk about how he sells things, of course, retail background. And
Yeah.
he says, "Well, you're selling a service too." And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I am. I'm selling the service of volunteerism. You're right." And so for me to successfully do that, I have to have some sort of sales pitch.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's such a valuable thing, whether you're enrolling people in the idea, whether you're selling them on it, whatever, again, whatever way you need to rebrand things in your mind to feel the most connected to it. Yeah. I think that's probably the mission critical part of it too. So how neat. Awesome. Well, I think that kind of gives us a great understanding. If people want to, if anybody in Oxford hears this and they want to volunteer, or if somebody somewhere in the world says, man, this is a great idea, I want to do something like this, what would be the best way that people can get in touch with you, learn more about what you guys do there in Oxford?
Yeah, so anyone can call us on our office line. That's 662-232-2773. And our email address is volunteer@strongertogetheroxford.com. And our website is www.strongertogetheroxford.com.
Perfect, Marlee. And I will be sure I put all that down in the show notes and the description, wherever this audio or video ends up. I'll be sure that folks can be able to find it as easy as possible. And I saw that you have a few other charities or resources that you mentioned in the email. The City of Oxford were an acknowledgement that you wanted to give, as well as Volunteer Mississippi and Volunteer Pro.
Yeah, so of course, the City of Oxford, they fund our programs. So they are the guidance of this program. Again, our mayor, she actually named our program Stronger Together. So that is one of her mottos. She loves our community. And so we were able to take her legacy and enhance it through the entire community. Volunteer Mississippi is the state volunteer hub. So we partner with them. We like their resources. They're able to shed a little bit of a different light in different regions of the state that we may not have thought of. And then Volunteer Pro is just another great resource for anyone who's in the volunteer management world who needs more resources to enhance their program.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll be sure to put those guys down in the description as well, so people again can use the program, reach out to the other organizations, or just see what they can learn, what they can give, and all that. So awesome. Again, Marlee, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. You as well.
And again, thank you to the listeners for spending your time with Marlee and I today. I had a great conversation with her. I think I learned a few things that are just invaluable. Just being able to kind of roll with the punches and notice when the way that you're communicating with others is not as effective as you would like for it to be. I think her example with the hospice volunteer opportunities is an excellent example of that one, because she had the wherewithal to notice that it wasn't resonating before it became an issue. So I think that's something that we can all kind of take into value in our or something that we can all take into our personal, professional, I don't know, just our daily life as we interact and work with one another. So once again, thank you for your time today. If you got something valuable out of today's conversation, please consider sharing this on social media. Share the episode with those that you work with, that you're close to, that you love, maybe even people that you hate. Just share the information with others, because the more that we're able to share these messages and just share what we all have to offer with one another, the better our world will become. Be sure to leave us a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this to. And as always, have fun, stay safe, and be yourself. See you guys next time.